Hey, what's up? Hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be talking about my most anticipated book releases for 2020. I love to make this video every year because I feel there's just a lot of wholesome joy involved in being excited for a book to come out. Whether it's the next book in one of your favorite series or it's a totally new story that you're just really excited about the plot of, I just love making these videos and I'm excited to share my choices with you guys. And in the comments below, I would love to hear what your most anticipated reads for 2020 are going to be. First up, we have a couple of books that have already come out because ya girl is late. But we have Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera, and Adam is an author who I believe I've read all of his books at this point, but he writes a lot of like speculative and contemporary, so this is the first fantasy release from him, which I am very much looking forward to. Set in New York City, we have two main groups of people. We have spellwalkers who have magical abilities and specters who attempt to steal the powers from these spellwalkers. The story follows two brothers, Brighton, who wishes he had his own superpowers, and Emile, who just wants the cycle of violence to stop. But one day in the middle of a fight, Emile is the one to manifest powers of his own and becomes the spellwalker that Brighton always wanted to be. I feel like Infinity Sun has a lot of elements that I love to read about. I love urban fantasies set in cities like New York. I love stories about brotherhood and family relations, and I also love some magical powers. Especially as Adam is a good friend of mine and I've enjoyed all of his previous books, I'm very much looking forward to it. Next up, we have The Hand on the Wall by Maureen, which is the third and final installment in the Truly Devious series. I talk about Truly Devious a lot on my channel because it is one of my favorite series. It is a mystery story set at this elusive boarding school, and it is told through a dual timeline. Firstly, the story takes place in 1935, following the founder of the school when his wife and daughter are kidnapped and never seen again. Fast forward almost a century later when the case has gone cold, and we follow Stevie Bell, a new student attending Allingham Academy to study true crime, and she is set on solving the disappearance and murders from all those years ago. Overall, I was really pleased with The Hand on the Wall. I feel like the mystery of this story was just wrapped up so perfectly, and it was unexpected in the best way. So if you're a fan, I think you'll be satisfied. Next up on my list of most anticipated books of the year is King of Crows by Libba Bray, which is the fourth and final installment in the Diviner series. I am a big fan of the Diviner series, and I'm actually currently doing a reread / read along of it with my friends Monica Kim and Sarah without an H, and we're doing live shows for each individual book, so I'll link some of that down below if you're interested in checking it out. The Diviners is a historical paranormal mystery set in 1920s New York City. It follows a group of people called Diviners who have various different supernatural abilities. Throughout each installment, there have been different mysteries for the characters to solve, but along through all of them has been this man with a stovepipe hat called the King of Crows. And so my assumption is that the fourth installment we'll finally find out who this dude is, what he's trying to do, and hopefully none of my faves will die. Sometimes that's all you can really hope for, but I'm scared. Next up on my list is Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman, and if you have not heard of Heartstopper, it is a graphic novel series that follows two boys who go to the same all-boys school, and they start off as friends but eventually develop feelings for each other, and it is just such a cute, fluffy, gay romance that I have grown to adore. In this installment of Heartstopper, the school goes on a class trip to Paris, and so it's all about the two main characters sort of navigating this new relationship, but then there's also a side character couple of these two girls who are also going through some changes in their relationship. So yeah, it's just a cute, queer old time. It is definitely the type of book to get you out of a reading slump because they are super fast and it's easy to read, and you'll just totally want to binge the whole series if you haven't already. But I'm super pumped for the next installment. Next up on my list, we have my #1 most anticipated book of the year, and how could it not be Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Chain of Gold is the first installment in a new series set in the Shadowhunters universe. It takes place in Edwardian London, and the main cast of characters is actually the children of the main characters from the previous series, The Infernal Devices. Currently, I have not read a ton about Chain of Gold, which I know is going to be like really surprising to those of you who know that like Shadowhunters is my everything, but I kind of want to inundate myself with like all of the content right before. What I do know is there's an inescapable plague that comes to London. There's a lot of secret and forbidden love, of course, because it's Cassie Clare. And I have also heard that it's like the greatest threat that these characters have ever faced thus far. I'm so excited. I could not be more excited. Like a couple of years ago, I was like, Last Hours, it's so far down the line. Like I just care about like my characters that I already know and love. But dude, I am so hyped for The Last Hours. Next up on my list is You Are Not Alone by Greer, Hendricks, and Sarah Pekkanen. This is a co-authorship that have written 2 previous thrillers before, and this is the 3rd of their collaborations, and I feel like I can really count on them for like a reliable thriller. Like I've thoroughly enjoyed my first 2 times with those 2, so I'm looking forward to what they have coming next. So these authors always write like really elusive synopses, so there's not a lot to know going into it. We follow a woman named Shay who wants to belong and feel loved and fit in, but her life just isn't turning out that way. And then we follow the Moore sisters who have the most glamorous life. They always get what they want and they have a ton of friends. And so Shay thinks that she wants their life, but the Moore sisters actually want hers. I don't know what that means, but what I do know is I want to read it. Next up we have another book that I have actually already read, and it even made it to my favorites of 2019 list, and that is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. So this book follows a young girl named Vanessa who, when she is 15, she goes to a new boarding school and is having trouble fitting in, so she ends up developing a romantic and sexual relationship with her English teacher. Now, Vanessa has always believed that this relationship was consensual and that they were in love with each other, but when we fast forward 17 years, more allegations are coming out about students who have accused this teacher of also having abusive relationships with them. So not only is it the story of a woman who is forced to uncover and confront some of her past trauma related to sexual abuse, but it is also about the general power dynamics in our society and the gatekeepers who uphold them and allow abusers like this to flourish and function. It's a really grueling story. It's immensely hard to read and could be very triggering, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was profound and one of the most like immaculate stories I've ever read, and I'd highly recommend it to anyone who's interested. Moving on, we have Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this story follows 2 girls who I believe might be sisters, stepsisters, or cousins. I'm not entirely sure of their relationship, but essentially they are living in different places. One is in the Dominican Republic and the other is in New York City, and they find out that their father has died in a plane crash. Oh, they're sisters who don't know that they're sisters. Okay, I like this even more now. So I think I'm like literally figuring this out in real time. I'm pretty sure that these 2 girls have the same father and they are separated, but they come together and find out the other exists because their father has died in a plane crash. Yeah, okay, I think that's it. And of course, as Elizabeth Acevedo is such an amazing poet, it is a novel written in verse that follows the 2 different girls' perspectives as they go through this whole experience of losing their father but also gaining a sister. Ooh, I just got chills thinking about that synopsis. I love Elizabeth Acevedo so much. I read both of her first works and loved them immensely, and I've been really excited for Clap When You Land, so I think it's gonna be a really great hard-hitting contemporary that I will love. Next up we have the spin-off that I feel absolutely nobody expected, and that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I feel like I don't know too much about this book. I haven't done a lot of research, but I believe it is the first installment in a new series set in the world of the Hunger Games, and I believe this particular series takes place following the 10th Hunger Games. And the only other thing I do know about this book is that the main character is apparently President Snow as a child. So there has been some controversy around this book when people found out who the main character was. And while I understand the reaction, I am personally very intrigued. Honestly, Suzanne Collins did like such an incredible job discussing power dynamics and corruption in the first Hunger Games series, so I don't know why we just gotta automatically assume that she's not going to do the same thing with this story. I think making President Snow the main character is a very deliberate choice, and I'm super intrigued to see where she's going to go with that. But I have no doubts that there is a purpose and there is a reason, and that she's gonna do this story justice. Next up on my list of most anticipated is Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend, and this is the third installment in the Morrigan Crow series. It follows this girl named Morrigan Crow who has lived her entire life believing that she is cursed and going to die on her 11th birthday, but I almost said Jupiter Moon again. Y'all almost caught me. A man named Jupiter North saves Morrigan and takes her to the land of Nevermore, where in the first installment, she has to compete to sort of earn her place in this society. And so in this installment, Morrigan is finally learning how to control her power, her talent, but at the same time, there is a sickness that is turning all of the magical creatures in Nevermore into something more dangerous. And so Morrigan has to team up with the rest of her friends and the people of Nevermore and stop the sickness from happening. I love this series. It is so fun and whimsical and just all the feel-good, close to Harry Potter vibes. I'm very happy and excited to dive back into this world, and I can't wait to find out what happens next. Coming out on September 1st, we have Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin, which is the sequel to Serpent and Dove, another one of my favorite books of 2019. I know absolutely nothing about this book. This one doesn't have a cover, it doesn't have a synopsis, but I will tell you that Serpent and Dove is set in a 16th century Paris inspired setting, and it follows a witch named Louise LeBlanc who is hiding and on the run, and a soldier slash witch hunter named Reed. And so the two of them find themselves in a very compromising position, and essentially they are forced into a marriage to sort of save face. And of course, Reed does not know that Lou is a witch. And it was amazing. I really loved it. Everything from the writing to the super unique magic system and the characters. It really blew me away. And since I finished Serpent and Dove, I have very much been awaiting Blood and Honey. Next up on my list is Queen of Vault by Amanda Foody. And this is the third and final installment in the Ace of Shades series. Or I think it's technically called the Shadow Game series, but I just always call it the Ace of Shades series. Ace of Shades follows a girl named N whose mother has gone missing, and so she has to leave her cozy life at finishing school in order to travel to the city of sin called New Rains and find her. Her only lead is the youngest crime lord in the city named Levi, and Levi is currently involved in a scam that is going really badly, so he's desperately in need of money to pay back the people he's taking from. So the whole story starts by N paying Levi to help her find her mother, but as the two of them grow closer and develop a romance, a lot of more stuff happens. There's a lot of really cool magic. This is another series that I feel has a very original magic system. I have such a strong attachment to the characters in this series and all of the different little groups of friendships and gangs and mafia bosses. There's literally so much stuff I love about this series. And King of Fools, the ending of that book completely tore me apart. I have reading vlog footage if you would like to watch. I'll link those down below. Oh, it's 2:30 in the morning and I just finished King of Fools. I am just in absolute agony at this ending. But I loved the first two books in this series so much. I think it is criminally underrated, and more people who love YA fantasy need to be reading the Shadow Game series, but I'm so hyped to find out how the story ends. Next up we have The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra, Clare, and Wesley Chu, and this is the second book in the Eldest Curses series. So if you're not super invested in the Shadowhunter world, or you're just not caught up on this series, it essentially follows Alec Lightwood, a Shadowhunter, and Magnus Bane, a Warlock. And with this trilogy, each installment takes place at a different point in the already established Mortal Instruments and Dark Artifices series, so it's sort of the adventures of Alec and Magnus that we don't necessarily see in those series. So if my timeline is correct, I think this book takes place after the events of Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, where Alec and Magnus, along with a few other characters, from the Mortal Instruments series are traveling to Shanghai, and it appears that an old friend from Magnus's past has a terrible secret and they have to use the Lost Book of the White in order to help them. I really liked the Red Scrolls of Magic. It was not like my favorite Shadowhunters book ever, but it really brought me back to that original series that fills me with so much love and joy and nostalgia, so I really appreciated it for that fact, and I'm hoping to have the same experience with this installment as well. And the final book on my current list of most anticipated books to come out in 2020 is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. Tiffany D. Jackson is another author. I have been making my way through her books. I just have her debut to read, but I really loved the first two books that I read from her, and the synopsis of Grown has me hooked. So Grown follows a young black girl named Enchanted Jones who has always wanted to be a singer, and while things are going difficult in her home life and her school life, she is sort of taken under the wing by this R&B artist named Corey Fields. While this seems like the opportunity of a lifetime, while Enchanted's relationship with Corey deepens and becomes more serious, he starts to want to control her every move and punish her, and it just becomes an absolute nightmare. And while that sounds very jarring itself, fast forward to Enchanted waking up with blood on her hands with no memory of the previous night, and Corey Fields is dead. I am so intrigued by this book. This is exactly the type of novel that I like to read, that is hard-hitting, deals with sensitive topics, and is ultimately about a person finding their voice. Also, I feel there's some obvious connections to be made here. I've been keeping up with Surviving R. Kelly, which is an incredible documentary by Lifetime, which I have been really enjoying, but I feel like also like having this knowledge of what's going on in the music industry currently, this book is very timely, and I'm excited to see what it has to offer. So that is it for my current most anticipated books of 2020, because of course there's going to be more that I will find out about as the year goes on, and there will be more that are released as the year goes on. But for now, these are the books that I'm most looking forward to reading. If we have any similarities on our list, I would love to know what books on here you were also excited for, but again, leave me any of your other anticipated releases that I did not mention. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon for a new one. Bye!